Hey. I think we have some things to talk about today here on the show. So you know what? Hit like, hit subscribe, turn on your notifications, tell all of your friends, and let's get after it. Hi, hello, and welcome to your favorite Average to Good podcast. Call it what you want. I am Jimmy Conrad alongside Charlie Davies and Tony Viola, and we have a fantastic show for you today. There was a documentary that got dropped around one Christian Pulisic, and some old stuff got brought up, and we're going to talk about it. Shots have been fired. Fireworks have been shot. It's not July 4th, but we got some things to get into. We also have a Premier League preview because the Premier League is kicking off once again. We have some players competing in that competition. And the U.S. Open Cup semifinals are set. Lots to get into. Big Tones, I know you've been ready for the red light to start so we could get into these types of conversations. How are you doing? How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm just hoping you cruise through the A block and we get through this and we get to the B block.
Yeah, so the B block is slated for this new episode of Christian Pulisic's documentary on CBS Paramount Plus. We highly suggest that you go check that out. Charlie Davies, how are you? How are you doing? You were up late, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, I was in Stanford yesterday, basically for Super Cup, US Open Cup. Red Bulls, the Union, that got rain delay, pushed us back, and I think we finished around 12:30 in the studio, and then I made the executive decision because of this podcast. Okay, do I stay in Stanford, and then that means I don't leave till about 11:30 or come home, and I drove home. So I'm on a good 3 hours of sleep.
That's the best version of Charlie Davies that we want. He's
hey,
raw.
He's right from motion. I'm ready to go.
He's ready to go. Lots to talk about. But let's talk about the Premier League first. And really the big question is, we have Jedi Robinson playing for Fulham, currently hurt. Chris Richards playing for Crystal Palace, currently just won the Community Shield over Liverpool. Tyler Adams playing for Bournemouth. They get to start the season in the Premier League opener against Liverpool at Anfield. Good luck with that. Brendan Aronson at Leeds. Leeds has signed 10 new players. None of them are going to help Brendan Aronson get playing time. And then we kind of have Luca Koleosho playing for Burnley. He's not going to play for us, so we can kind of maybe leave him out. But let's talk about Fulham first. Where do we expect them to finish? I mean, last season they were in 11th. This is Marco Silva's 5th in charge. They haven't really made any signings. So if you're a Fulham fan, you're not really that thrilled. They are building a new part of the stadium so they can have luxury boxes. And so I guess if you're on the business side of the game, you're like, cool, Fulham's making some moves off the field, but on the field, this could be a really tough season. I expect them to get mid-season, or excuse me, mid-table, but I don't really know what else to expect. And then I start to wonder, maybe Jedi Robinson should have moved. Maybe he should have made the move to a bigger club, because I just don't think Fulham are going to have the aspirations or ambitions to really scrape into Europe or to have a special season. Tones, coming to you first on this. Where are your thoughts on Fulham?
Yeah, I would think they look like a mid-table team, and that's Marco Silva continuing to sometimes punch above his weight, right? I mean, they flirted with Europe. They had a really good spell last year, but yeah, they really haven't brought anybody in. And if you look at the rest of the table, because you got to think like Man United's going to be better somehow. Tottenham showed some signs yesterday, although they end up blowing it, but they showed some signs that they can compete. So you got two teams that were below them last year already that you're thinking are going to be above them in the table. There's always a surprise in the league somewhere along the way, whether it's a Nottingham Forest or whoever it is. So you fear a little bit for Fulham, but I'm with you. The storyline for me here is Anthony Robinson and not making a move because there had been rumors for quite a while. And I think most of us think that Anthony Robinson's next challenge, right, is European football and playing on Wednesday nights someplace on a consistent basis. And we just didn't, we're not, it looks like we're not going to see that this year.
I appreciate his loyalty, all things considered. And really, there's a tale of two teams when I think about Fulham, at least last season. They beat Liverpool on April 6th. They beat them 3-2. And I really felt like that was a really good performance from Marco Silva. They were just taking it to them, right? There was no fear. And that was really impressive to see. But then a month later, they lost to Everton, which ended kind of their hopes and dreams of maybe scraping into the Conference League. So Marco Silva, I think, has been a good manager, especially for Jedi Robinson. The defensive discipline that he's instilled in him has made him now one of the best, more well-rounded left backs in the world, let alone the Premier League. but I just worry a little bit. And now Fulham might be signing Rodrigo Munoz or selling him to Atalanta. And maybe that gives room to Josh Sargent or others to come in with a little bit of a splash of cash. What are your thoughts overall, Chuck? Where do you think that Fulham are going to finish and Jedi overall? Where do you think he'll end up being the player that has the best season for us in the Premier League?
I think sometimes we forget to balance one personal life. So you're home, you're in London, like a city like London, and you're the captain of the club. So there's not the need to move when you're playing in the best league in the world, arguably the best league in the world. And you're a competitive team, mid-table, high mid-table. You're not really leaving for anything that's, unless it's tip top, we're talking about the top 4 in the Prem, like guaranteed top 4, or the likes of the Bayerns of the world, the Inters of the world, Atletico Madrid maybe, but Barcelona, Real Madrid. So he's in a great place, and he's coming off of a knee surgery. So I think it's one of those things where I'm in a great place. I have a great relationship with my team, with my coach, with the fans. I just got to get back on the pitch and play, and the rest will take care of itself, especially in front of a World Cup. Now, if he performs this year extremely well, like he did last year, and he goes in the World Cup and has another incredible performance, he's gone, right? So
right.
I don't think this year needed to be that move for him, especially with how he had to kind of crawl past the finish line with the knee maintenance. So for me, I think he's in a really good spot, and I think he's set up for success.
You make a good point. There's something about maybe going to a big club ahead of a World Cup 1 year out where there could be some uncertainty. Yeah, you might have been first choice on paper, but then you have to obviously go there and prove yourself. And if that doesn't work out and you're riding the pine, it's a bit of a risk. Whereas at Fulham is a guarantee, and playing in the World Cup, obviously the ultimate of ultimates.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about Crystal Palace. Let's move over to them. Two
Jimmy,
trophies
hold on
in the
one
last
second.
3 months. Yes?
Jimmy, sorry, hold on.
ahead.
We've preached for months about pushing yourself to the next level and making yourself uncomfortable, and like a Josh Sargent needs to go to another place. Why aren't we? Why do we change the rule for Anthony Robinson? Like
Tony, it's the championship.
We're
talking about Josh Sargent, the championship, of course.
But no. You said he needs to push himself to the next level.
100%.
Right? And that's what you want players to do. So yeah. Anthony Robinson, why are we? And believe me, I'm okay with everything you said, but we just can't have two different conversations.
We absolutely can, Tony, because we're looking at two different players in two different situations.
You said he's comfortable with his family. He likes it there. He's the captain of the team. Well,
and he's playing in the best league in the world.
That's Josh Sargent right now. So how do you know he's not comfortable with his family? And he's the captain there. Like that. That's what I don't get. Maybe he doesn't have the chance to play.
It's a
I get it. Everyone, but maybe he can't play in the Prem, right? He turned down the Bundesliga to stay there.
That's the whole point. It's like staying in USL or go to MLS. And I'm comfortable in USL. Well, guess what? You're playing in the USL. The championship is USL in Europe. That's how I look at it.
No, but you made this a family thing. You said this about your family and being comfortable.
What I'm adding to the fact that he's playing in the Premier League. He's playing in London. He's playing in a team that's competing in the top half, middle top half.
So go to Aston Villa if you want to live in London. They're in, right? Aren't they in Europe? Aston Villa,
Birmingham. But yeah, I hear you.
They're in Birmingham.
I'm actually
sorry.
I'm looking for some popcorn because this is a fantastic way to start the show.
But we can't compare Anthony Robinson and Josh.
I'm not
Sargent.
comparing the two leagues, Charlie. You made it about your family and that you're settled in a place and you don't make a move because of that. But why can't Anthony? I agree with you with Anthony Robinson. That's what I'm saying. But we can't have it like change for every single player.
Well,
like if you're comfortable, you're comfortable.
No, but
you don't like the league he's playing, and I get it. But that doesn't mean Josh Sargent is not comfortable where he is.
He is comfortable where he is. That's why he stayed. He said, "I'd rather be happy.
Right.
I'd rather have my wife be happy and my family be happy in a situation where we're good here. We're familiar with everything. I'm playing every week. I'm the leader here. I'm fine with that. But what I'm telling you is he's not Anthony Robinson. He's not in a position.
I never said he was.
I know, but
never.
The difference is Anthony Robinson is by far the best left back, and it's not even close. And he's also playing in the Premier League. Josh Sargent is maybe the 5th choice striker right now. He's not moving up that totem pole unless he moves to another league.
So we have the best left back in the league, and we're settling that he's. And I don't want to disrespect Fulham because Fulham has been so great to American players, but he's playing at Fulham, and you said our 5th striker is playing in the Championship.
Yes.
Okay, it seems to add up to me. Like, I think our best player in a position should be playing at the highest level, and our 5th striker should be playing in the Championship.
Is the Premier League not the highest level?
Yeah.
If you're playing consistently in the Premier League, is that not the highest
the
level?
Best one in the league, you said.
No, but is that not the best level? If you're playing,
it's the best level. Yeah, but we got the best one in the league, and he's playing at Fulham. Not Man City, not Liverpool, not Arsenal, anywhere.
That's not his problem. If Manchester City, Arsenal, Liverpool don't go and buy him, he can't do anything about that.
Nor can Josh Sargent or anyone else do anything about that.
Josh Sargent had a bid that was accepted by his club, which means your club says
in Germany.
It doesn't matter. You're going to
right where he did. Yeah, he didn't want to go. That's the whole argument.
But the point is,
because he settled in England,
he had the choice. Anthony Robinson did not have a choice.
Anthony Robinson had no offers at all. We haven't seen an offer for 5 years for the best left back. We haven't seen an offer for the best one.
Not one offer came in that was accepted by the club.
Okay.
So what do you expect him to do? He can't do anything.
Stay at Fulham. The best left back. You're going to stay at Fulham.
You're in the Premier League. Yeah.
I'm going to finish in 11th. Yeah, that's it.
And you're in the Premier League, and you're regarded as one of the best left backs in the league. So
for me, I look at it as a double standard when you're talking about families and settled. Like if you're talking about, I'm not comparing levels, but we can't have a double standard when we're talking about families and how you make your choices. Like, I don't get it. I just doesn't matter what league you're in.
What don't you understand in terms of your one player is Premier League top player?
You made it about his family and being settled. That's what you made it about.
I added that to the conversation.
That was the first thing you said. We were taping this show. That was the first thing you said.
And what I'm telling you right now is he's in the Premier League already. He's competing at the highest level. And the best
I don't disagree with that. I'm not disagreeing with that at all. I'm not.
Woo! All right, let's take a breath. I'm going to talk about Crystal Palace. You guys, in through your nose, out through your mouth for a couple of those. Crystal Palace have won 2 trophies in the last 3 months. And that's pretty rad because they had been through a 120-year drought without winning a trophy. So shout out to Oliver Glasner, their manager, and to all the players. Really becoming legends of the club in a lot of different ways. Now, what's interesting is that Chris Richards really established himself after he came back from injury about mid-February last season, and now I feel like he's a lock to start in that team, which is awesome. But Mark Gahey might be on the move. The England international might be on the move, even though he captained Crystal Palace to beat Liverpool in the Community Shield. Liverpool might end up coming to get him before the transfer window's done, and there are reports that they would be looking to go get Ousmane Diomande, the 21-year-old center back from Sporting Lisbon, or Sporting Clube de Portugal, who is a beast. So ultimately, it wouldn't be a like for like because Diomande doesn't have the same type of experience, still more potential based, but he's got the player profile that I think would be a nice fit for Palace and for that 3-4-2-1 that Oliver Glasner likes to play. I guess the big question is, since they're not going to be playing in the Europa League, they're dropping into the Conference League. They didn't win that appeal. They're still going to be in Europe for the first time ever in their history, which is very exciting. It means they're going to have midweek competitions. We've seen this before where you have a mid-table club, historically a mid-table club, kind of punch above their weight. They finally get into Europe, and they just don't have the depth to compete in all these competitions. And so when I look at Crystal Palace, I think that Chris Richards is going to get a ton of experience, going to get a ton of reps, and I think that's going to be good and probably continue to cement his status as a first-choice center back for us heading into the World Cup in 2026. Chuck, I'm coming to you first, though. Where do you expect Palace to kind of net out after having such a historic end to their season and the start of this season?
I think this is a team that's going to be, at best, fighting in that 12 to 15 range. They lost some players. They still might lose Eze. they haven't brought in enough players. The reinforcements to continue to compete in this league. Look at everyone else is getting stronger. It feels like Palace, albeit, okay, it's great that they won the Community Shield, but we all know that's almost a curse when you win that competition because whoever wins it doesn't win the Premier League. So it's almost like Liverpool in the back of their mind was like, it's not the end of the world to lose this. For Crystal Palace, they've really looked strong, especially the back half of the last season into this preseason. But in the end, it still feels like too many players have been pulled out and not enough players have come in.
Yeah, they only got signed so far Walter Benitez, who was the goalkeeper for PSG, Argentinian. PSV, excuse me, not PSG. And then Borna Sosa came in from Ajax. He's a left back. So, yeah, these guys are kind of depth pieces, spot starters ultimately. And if they lose Eze to Arsenal, if they lose Gahey to Liverpool, it could be a real tough season for Palace. And kind of disappointing given the fact that they had just made so much history and got into Europe for the first time. All right, let's move over to Bournemouth. Up the cherries, as we like to say. Big Tones, let's talk about them because we talk about another team that real thin on the transfer market, mainly because they sold 3 of their 4 of their back line who were excellent last season. They lost their goalkeeper as well. Kepa ended up going to Arsenal. They bring in Petrovic, who played for the New England Revolution and for Chelsea, which I thought was a good signing. But when you lose Howson, your starting center back, to Real Madrid. Cabarni goes to PSG. Kirkus goes to Liverpool, the left back. Those are some big clubs you're selling to, but if you're not really bringing in like-for-like replacements, it could be pretty tough for Tyler Adams, at least, and crew to get good results. They still have Evan Nielsen up top. Justin Kluivert might be hurt for this first game against Liverpool, but obviously had a good season last year. You got Semenyo. How do I say that? Semenyo, excuse me. Antoine Semenyo, who 11 goals and 6 assists last year, obviously the top player. So they still have some pieces, but when you don't have a back line that or gets decimated in the transfer window, it becomes pretty difficult to move forward in a meaningful way.
Yeah, you mentioned the center backs, right? So between those guys of the 140 million, another 40 million with 46 million with Kirkes is 200 million. Don't forget Max Aarons, who was a spot guy, he's a right back, is also gone. So you lose a little bit of depth. If I'm a defensive midfielder at Bournemouth, like Tyler Adams, I'm going to put my running shoes on this year because you're going to do a lot of work in the middle of the field. I think it's going to be a little bit of a slog for them, and it's kind of. We see this, right? We're seeing it with Crystal Palace. You just talked about it. We see it with Bournemouth, teams that have success, that players get picked away. And that's what it's going to be like for them. I fear for them a little bit. And I know I work on my radio show. There's some people that are picking Bournemouth near the bottom of the table. Had it not been for some of the teams coming up that haven't strengthened, they look at Bournemouth as one of the weaker sides that have stayed in the Premier League.
Right. Well, we got Bournemouth did confirm yesterday that Diakite from Lille, a center back, is coming in, and they signed Truffert as well from a French club. And so you got some players that are coming in, but again, and I'm a huge fan of their coach, Andoni Iraola. I really feel like he's a top manager, and I don't know how much longer he'll be at Bournemouth, especially if he can get them punching above their weight again. But you still have new players coming in. And trying to get them indoctrinated into your methodology and philosophy isn't always that easy. And, of course, playing Liverpool to start the season at Anfield, not going to be an easy task. That game is kicking off on Friday. That's tomorrow. All right, Chuck, let's talk about Leeds. Leeds finished on 100 points last season in the championship to get promoted back into the Premier League. They made a bunch of signings this year or the season coming in. Lucas Emeka from Wolfsburg. He was at Man City's academy for 11 years. Last season, he had 3 goals in 19 league games. I don't think he ever really, or hasn't yet, the potential that he had hasn't really reached that potential. Biol comes in from Udinese, center back. You got Goodmanson, who comes in from Lille at left back. Anton Stack, who I think's a proper center mid. He just scored in a friendly against AC Milan, coming in from Hoffenheim. That's going to cut into Brendan Aronson's time. Lucas Perry, the goalkeeper from Lyon. Sean Longstaff from Newcastle. Jack Harrison is back from his 2-year loan from Everton. I look at all these names and what Leeds is trying to do under Daniel Farke, and I think, where does Brendan Aronson fit into this? And it looks like, and it feels like, more like a super sub, potential spot starter based on the competition.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, Jimmy. And they're potentially about to get Noah Okafor from Milan as well. So if you're talking about Calvert-Lewin and then Noah Okafor.
Right. It's got Calvert-Lewin and Okafor, yeah.
So there are a number of players coming in. It just feels like it could be a tough season. At the same time, he could be one of those players who now they have two, strikers, two guys scoring goals, and he's creating all the plays. He's winning. Obviously, you need to have one guy who does all the dirty work. So in terms of the counter press, the intensity to play, to create, he might be one of those players who you can plug and play anywhere if there are any injuries, suspensions, gaps. But it could be a tough year in the Premier League for Leeds as they're trying to grind along to stay up. I hope he gets minutes and I hope he makes the most of it, but I think it's going to be a pretty difficult season for Brandon Aronson because he's not going to get the time that he got in the Championship.
Okay, so we got Jedi Robinson currently hurt, playing for Fulham. We're expecting mid-table. Chris Richards, that team is really thin, multiple competitions, could be losing some top players, probably going to hopefully finish mid-table. Tyler Adams in Bournemouth, sold a lot of players, probably mid-table. Brendan Aronson might not see the field.
Before you got to Brendan Aronson, we're on a roll. Each player is going to be counted on for their club.
That's true.
Right? So I look at it as the positive. Each player, there's going to be more importance with their playing time and their influence for every game. They're going to be counted on. So that's a good net spin. Positive.
Good spin.
Yeah, and if he does play, if Farke does play in this 4-3-3, I think it becomes even harder. That's what he did against Milan. It becomes even harder for Brendan Aronson to play, right? Because he's not an out and out just winger, right, in that league, not in the Premier League. He's got to play as that number 10 in a 4-2-3-1. So that becomes even more difficult for him to get minutes.
Yeah, so I'm worried about Brendan Aronson, but to your point, Chuck, I'm not worried about the other three. I think they are going to be counted on and be trusted in a really meaningful way, and hopefully that continues in with the national team as well. Okay. We rarely do this where we kind of tiptoe into just talking about leagues in general, but since we're here and before we get into our first break, who do you think, this is going to be a really competitive Premier League. Chuck, I know you're an Arsenal fan. Do you think Arsenal can do it this season? Are you? It's like now or never at this point. You signed everybody you could sign. You filled every hole here.
Mm-hmm. So let's be honest. Liverpool are the clear favorites to repeat as champions. They are the favorites. But I do feel that Arteta has no excuses left now. You were missing a striker. You're missing some depth pieces. I think Zubamendi is an incredible replacement for Thomas Partey, and you got no regard for some insurance. Madueke, I know he plays on the right primarily, but guess what? You can put him on the left. Whenever Saka needs a rest, you got Madueke, but Madueke can also play over Martinelli. And then Victor Gyökeres, that's the big signing. A true number 9 finally. Mikel Merino obviously showed he could play there in tough spots. Kai Havertz can play there in tough spots.
Right. You're giving me a big long preface here. Is Arsenal going to do it or not? Are they going to do it or not?
They're going to do it. I'm going to put all 10 toes
Arsenal
down. They're going to
win the league. Wow. How about you, Big Tones?
Yeah, I still think I'm with Charlie. I still think Liverpool's the favorite, but I have a feeling Man City's going to have a say in this thing in the end, like all the way till the end, because last year it's not going to sit well with any of them. The Rodri thing is still a little bit concerning, right? Because you are taking an incredible player out of there. And how do you make up for Kevin De Bruyne's years of being around that club? But I still think I think Man City might have a shot at this thing.
Oh, they definitely have a shot. I wonder, does Chelsea come into the conversation as well? They have a lot of confidence now and seem to have a much clearer identity. I don't know if that's going to push on and help them win the Premier League, but I do think they're going to be in the conversation and be difficult to play against ultimately. And then you have all the other teams that are chipping away and getting a little bit better and being difficult to break down. Yeah, ultimately Liverpool are still the favorites, and they made some signings that continue to strengthen the squad, not only now but in the future. Oh man, I there's a part of me that wants to see Arsenal do it though. So Chuck, I'm kind of leaning my heart towards that.
Think about, just put this in perspective. Arsenal were supreme defensively last year, and they set pieces right. If a game isn't going well, they've proven that they can win defense by defending and with set pieces. Now you're throwing in. Now they have attackers. Now they have a goal scorer.
It's all there. No more excuses. There are no more excuses for the Arsenal in this.
You have everything now.
Yeah. And then that we should add, if Alexander Isak joins Liverpool, I feel like that makes them pretty tough. All right, we're taking our first break and call what you want. When we come back, Christian Pulisic and Tim Weah said some things, and we're going to listen to what they had to say, and then we're going to respond to what they had to say, and we're just going to get into it. It should be a lot of fun, so keep it right here.
And I won't look back. I won't me, the biggest cop-out of all time is when, especially, all pundits want to say, they didn't want it. They didn't have the heart. Back in our day, we would fight and we would die on that field.
When we were on the field, there were guys on the field, all over the field, who if they didn't perform well, their club team probably lost. But there's not a lot of guys who fall into that.
I think those guys are chasing checks, and for me, I just feel like they're really evil, honestly, because they've been players and they know what it's like when you're getting bashed, and those are the same guys that'll turn around and shake your hand and try to be friendly with you at the end of the day.
These guys want clicks. It's social media, it's subscribe to my channels, listen to my podcasts, or whatever.
Don't get me wrong, I respect all of them. I mean, there were players that I looked up to, but quite frankly, the guys before us didn't win anything either.
I think they should look in the mirror and look at their last performances for the national team before they start talking shit.
All right, so that's a nice lead in. I'm Jimmy. I didn't win anything. Conrad alongside Tony Miola. Listen to my podcast. I said Miola there. I messed that one up. And Charlie chasing checks Davies. And this is called What You Want. So some strong words from two of our better players on the U.S. men's national team. You know what we should do? We should have them on our podcast and see if they want to talk it out a little bit. Or actually, we did that. Check our interview with Christian Pulisic from a while back ahead of the Gold Cup. That's, I think, where all this, part of it got started at least. Yeah. So Tones, I'm coming to you first. You have more experience playing for the national team than me and Charlie combined. You've grown the game. We were standing on your shoulders. You've seen it all. What's your take now on these retorts? Let's say from Christian.
Give me from your perspective, Tony,
and Tim Weah.
And from like their perspective, like this group, because you also coach these guys with the youth national team, so you know them intimately. You've seen them close and personal. So I'm really curious.
Agreed.
How do you feel about where they're coming from, but also the messaging around former players?
Yeah, so I broke it down by statement here. So the cop-out thing with Landon Donovan, the players don't want it. That Landon addresses that Christian says, players don't want it. This is what pundits say. I agree with Christian here. I think players give effort all the time. Because for me, if you ever question a player's effort, then the guy shouldn't be there anyway. That doesn't mean you play good or you play bad. Effort is one thing that I think I've told you guys privately as well, like while we're doing shows. It's the one thing that's really tricky to call people out on, because then you're calling them out on their integrity. So that part of it, the whole thing about laying on the field and all of that stuff, I know what Landon's trying to say, but I'm just like, leave that part alone for now, because the guys give effort, period. The chasing checks from Timothy Weah, just a young kid. So are we criticizing or are we analyzing, right? Should we not analyze the Copa America and how miserable a performance that was? Should we not analyze the Nations League was in LA, right? And how terrible that was? Or should we just go, oh, this is one big kumbaya and this golden generation is just, they'll get it done at the World Cup. Like, I don't understand that part. That's the part. Evil. I don't know that any of us are evil. We're doing our jobs, right? We get paid. We argued for so many years about nobody cares. No one watches the national team. And now you have a wild hair up your ass because somebody tells you that you sucked in the game. Like, do you think none of us went through any of that? And even worse, we just didn't have enough of it. It wasn't national news, but you read about it. You heard about it all the time. This is nothing new. Can you imagine the pressure if you're an Argentinian player or if you're an English player? You guys all play over in Europe. You know what it's like in Italy, how much they're getting bashed as a national team, right? And then, look, you guys know I've been friends with Mark Pulisic for a long time. We played together at the youth level when we were U18s or 19. It's a long time ago, right? Which I hate telling you about. But you got to stay out, Mark. I know you're a dad. I know you get emotional. Your kid's at the top of the heap, right? I got other friends that in other sports that their kids right now are at the top of the heap, right? In other major sports in America. They listen to this all the time about their kids. You can't respond, right? Stay out, right? Christian's a big boy. He'll be able to do this on his own, and he'll be able to carry this team. If we just, I feel like, I don't know how you guys feel. You're both ex-national team players. I feel like there's a big divide between this team and anyone else in and around the national team that's ever been associated with. And I will say this now that I'm on the subject, in that Landon Donovan interview, and then I'll get off my soapbox here. Tim Howard said at one point, I'm paraphrasing, so you guys might be able to help me. I'm not friends with these guys. I'm not a mentor to these guys, something to that effect, right? I get paid handsomely to do this job.
Yeah.
I wish guys like Tim Howard were mentors to these guys. I wish he would change his stance on this and become a mentor, because they need it as much as we all needed it when we were younger. And I think that's in that same interview that we showed the clip from Landon Donovan. So there's my take on this whole thing. All a bunch of BS from everyone. We're doing our jobs. Those guys are doing their jobs to give opinions. And their jobs, and when I say theirs, Christian, Timothy, and that entire group, is to go punch above your weight like apparently every other national team has done before in the history of our game. Right? If they all thought we sucked and we only had grit and determination, well, guess what? We punched way above our weight.
Well, tell me, what do you make of Timothy saying all these guys who are talking, they haven't done anything? You know, I
haven't done anything. Good. I don't really give a shit. I really don't. I haven't done anything. So my career sucked. I haven't done anything. That's perfect. That doesn't mean that your team did well in Copa America. It doesn't mean your team did well in Nations League. So then my career, your career, Jimmy's career, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Your job now is to punch above your weight at the World Cup. Period. End of story. Our careers don't matter in any of this. We're here just to give opinions. You know what they say about opinions, right? I can't give you the rest of the saying, but why are you listening? And by the way, what did they win? Right? What have they won? If we want to do that, if we want to play that game, they don't have a
signature win, right?
Okay, and I don't want to. I hate going there, but I mean, if we're gonna talk about it honestly, what just go play at the World Cup and do what we think you can do. Period. And right now, this team is not where we thought they would be. Period. I can't imagine Weah, McKinney, Pulisic, Musa, Anthony Robinson, any of these guys think that their team, as it currently stands, is where they thought it would be coming off the field against the Netherlands in 2022. Period.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that this is where
I can certainly attest to that. I mean, just think about everything that has unfolded since that Netherlands loss, with Berhalter, with the Reynas, with and then BJ Callahan taking over, right? And then Berhalter coming back, then the Copa America disaster, to, you know, some of these friendlies where you're saying, you know, what's going on, to now Pochettino, you say, okay, we got a world-class coach. This is a manager who's coached Messi and Mbappe in their primes, who's got Tottenham to a Champions League final. Surely everything's going to be fixed now, right? It's the coaching. So you got a coach, now you're good. And we're not any further than we were with Berhalter. So who's it on? It's not us. We're pundits. We're just giving we are giving our thoughts based on our experience. And guess what? All of us who are in this business have played the game. And for the guys who are doing it on the biggest stage, we've all played the game at the highest level against the best players. And we can all say we've had a signature moment with the national team. So we can give that perspective and what it meant for the group and how we achieved that goal from the group. So sometimes when I see players, because I'll never forget after the Confederations Cup, and we had this incredible run, and Clint Dempsey was on fire. But leading up to that, John Harkes, he was in the media, and he was crushing Clint. Well, guess what? We saw John Harkes down the line at a World Cup qualifier, and him and Clint had their face off, and it was handled there. Nothing after, and nothing since. Really, it's been that simple of being like, hey, is there a problem? Hey, let's squash it, done, and it's over and moved on. But I just feel that at the moment, it is so divisive. And it's not just players and media. It feels like it's divisive between the media organizations, like the groups, and the players. And then you have one faction of players who are the MLS guys who aren't really getting a proper shake of things, who aren't really counted on. And you have these guys who are just, I'm so hungry to play, I want to play, and maybe the quality's not there. And then you have the guys who are all in Europe. And when we look at it, the matter of fact is the guys in Europe are making so much more money than players in the past ever did. And so I remember when certainly, Tony, when you played, the national team was essential because you needed that salary as well to kind of go with your paycheck with MLS. That 100%. There's no doubt about that. Now you're at a position where a lot of these guys are playing in Europe. If the national team doesn't happen for them, they're good. They don't need it to survive, like a salary. It's got to come from the heart. It's all about passion. So I think when we're looking at this current group, they take things a lot more personal. I think it's a little bit more sensitive from them. And, unfortunately, I think the country's relying on them and putting a lot of pressure on them to take this game forward the same way that you did, Tony. And maybe it was unexpected in how far you guys were able to go. But now that this group is playing in Europe and playing against some of the best competition and playing in the best competitions against the best in the world, the hope is that they can carry the game forward in 2026. And the reality of the situation is it's not where it needs to be for them to do that.
Okay, this is where I'm disappointed.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah, very well said from both of you, and I appreciate your perspectives. I put my coaching hat on, so if you can't see me, you're just listening to this. I literally have a hat that says coach on it, which is awesome. And when we evaluate players, there's 4 areas of the game where we evaluate. There's technical, tactical, physical, mental, emotional. Right now, when we're having this discussion, we're not talking about the technique of these guys. We're not talking about the tactics and their understanding. We're not talking about the physical, the bigger, faster, stronger stuff. We're talking about the mental, emotional right now. All this is based in that space when we're talking about these guys as players. It's all emotional. Everything that we're reacting to, everything's emotional. They're reacting to some emotion. It's all emotion. When I look at players that when I'm evaluating a team, or if I want someone that I can trust in big moments, you want emotional stability. You don't want somebody that's going to get too high, not going to get too low, not going to take the bait of somebody that's trying to get them, or whatever it may be. And this is where I'm most disappointed with this whole situation right now. The players are reacting emotionally. Christian Pulisic, just to start, let's go back to the genesis of all this, reacted emotionally to his coach and the U.S. Soccer not understanding that he needed a break. Now, however you feel about that and him letting us down, that's your emotional response to what he thinks he needs. U.S. Soccer, I'm still disappointed by this. U.S. Soccer, Matt Crocker put out a statement saying Christian and his people, I'm paraphrasing here, we can find the exact quote, but Christian and his people have made the decision to not come in this summer. And I thought that was throwing Christian Pulisic under the bus, that he's alone now on an island, that they didn't agree with that decision. And now this is U.S. Soccer and potentially Mauricio Pochettino responding to them not being happy with that.
Well, also throw in the camp, right, Jimmy? So you have the player camp now. Do we back Christian? Do we?
Right. Now you have to make a choice, right?
So now you're throwing that into it, right?
Right, exactly right. So now you're forcing people to have an emotional choice about who's right and who's wrong.
Yes,
and that I remember seeing that going. Why would they do that? When we go into the coaching courses, Tony, when you're doing your coaching courses, one of the number one things you should do as a coach is you got to meet your players where they are. At some point, I assume Christian tried to intimate to Mauricio Pochettino and the coaching staff. We heard it from the interview when we talked to him. And if you're a proper, not to say that he's not, obviously he's a proper coach, but if you're having significant communication with your player pool, you would know who's feeling good, who's not. There were other players that elected to not come to the Gold Cup for a variety of different reasons. But Christian's the one that's being hung right now, and U.S. Soccer is the only one that hung him out to dry as well in their statement. And it just feels like this whole thing could have been squashed and not allowed to grow legs and have this crazy emotional avalanche that we're having now about the team if Mauricio Pochettino and or U.S. Soccer would have come out and said, hey,
Mauricio doesn't talk to the players, remember?
Which
So
blows my mind.
Christian wanted to reach out to Mauricio.
That's right.
But it was his assistant coach who was doing that communicating. So think about that from a player perspective. And the other side of the coin is, hey, this is a national team. You show up when you're called upon. It's a new coach. He's not giving any favoritism, right, to any players. He's still trying to figure things out. I get that. But you know who your best players are. That's not going to change, right? You have a guy who's playing at Milan, who's one of the best players in Serie A, arguably the best player at Milan. That's going to be your guy. There's no secret that Christian Pulisic is your top attacking player of the U.S. men's national team. So if he's trying to establish that relationship, I honestly feel that that's where the coach has to pick up and have that conversation and say, okay,
agreed.
This is the plan that I have for you within the team. Love it or love it or hate it. This is it, right?
Right. But then you need to receive the feedback, right? I mean, we get back to the what we're taught. We're being taught at the highest levels of coaching stuff. You got to meet your player where they are, and if they're giving you communication and feedback, like, hey, I'm a little tired. I've been grinding, and I just want to be as fresh as I possibly can for the next season and leading into the World Cup itself. That needs to be heard. And if it wasn't heard, or if it wasn't intimated in the right way, it wasn't delivered in the right way or received in the right way, this is what happens. And so there has to be some responsibility that has to be taken, from my perspective, by USOC and Mauricio Pochettino. Because if they had come out and said, hey, listen, and had owned it, okay, they might not have liked it behind the scenes, but have just said, hey, we need to protect our player here, and said, hey, listen, Christian's had a hell of a season for Milan. We really love everything that he's done, and we think it's in his best interest. We are making the decision to rest him. You honestly, behind the scenes, you might not like it individually, but we are gonna say publicly that we're gonna rest him. This whole thing, we wouldn't even be talking about this. There wouldn't even be an issue. Christian wouldn't even come on our show. There'd be nothing in the documentary. We wouldn't have Mark being upset or Tim coming saying that we're all evil, all that type of stuff. It just wouldn't even have happened. And so when we cut out all the emotional stuff and just focus on what actually is important, and having that emotional stability, not getting too high or too low, now we've got a team that's working together. Everybody's on the same page. But now we've created this little gap of divisiveness, which isn't helping anything. And that pisses me off. That's where I'm most disappointed. There just could have been a couple things that happened that could have stopped this whole thing in its tracks very, very, very easily. And I can't believe we're here at this moment. And yes,
that's when the former players could jump in at that point, because Tony, it's so easy to look back and go, if we had that situation, there's no way in hell that you're not going, So it's like, it's so easy to put yourself back in your shoes in that day, in that same similar situation, and go, okay, let's go in on this kid. Like, the expectations are here. We're trying to push the game forward. Now let's take our shot, right? That's what the guys are thinking. And like you said, Jimmy, it could have all been brushed aside.
Easily pushed aside.
Or which happens all over the world is, I'm dealing with an injury. I need some rehab. The guys who fake injuries just to say, I can't go. And I think it's also important to note, Christian said, I'll come in for the camp and I'll play the 2 friendlies. I just can't give you that Gold Cup. I need some rest before I go into a full first preseason with Allegri. And we all know you don't want to miss any days with a new manager. You want to be there from the start so he has no excuses not to play you. And that's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
I just kind of hope that this is I just kind of hope that this is fuel for whatever reason for any of these guys, right? If it's them against the rest of the world in this World Cup, so be it. You need motivation. I would think that motivation enough is the fact that, one, you're going to play in a World Cup, which so few players ever get the chance to do, right? No matter where you're at. If you just think about the sheer numbers, and then think about how many guys get a chance to play at a World Cup at home, right? The numbers are so small, it's mind-boggling, and that's why, when you get the chance, don't take it for granted at all. Don't miss a beat, and hopefully they use it as motivation. If that's what motivates them, hey, the older guys or the media doesn't like us. I think, Charlie, you said something that's really important that we didn't have a bunch of back in 1994. we didn't have a bunch of ex-players making evaluations. So everything, I shouldn't say everything because there was criticism, but mostly everything was this party, right? Everybody's great. These guys are great. They're going to do great no matter what they do. Like, there was no criticism. There's no the criticism that we see now, or the analysis that we see now, comes from the fact that guys have played before. So they have a different view. They have a view, period, which is what we wanted for so many years. Now that we have it, we're complaining about the fact that we have it, and people are giving their opinion. So, I mean, everyone just, I think in the end, everybody just do your job, right? We got to analyze. They got to win games, period. End of story.
The one thing I'll jump on that you said, Tones, was that they can use this as fuel. Well, yes, the players can use this as fuel, but usually the coach is using that as the motivation, the fuel. Like, let's prove all the haters wrong. But it feels like at this moment that the divisiveness is somewhat coming from coach and let's just say Christian. Like, there's an ego play. When Mauricio Pochettino said in his thing, "I'm not a mannequin," there's only talking to one person. Like, basically, you can't tell me what to do 100%. And how to run my team. So now you have your best player versus your top coach. And all I'm saying is, dude, you get paid $6 million a year. Pick up the phone and just have some conversations with these guys.
I'm with you, man.
That's a basic expectation of a coach. Okay, maybe it's not it's not I know that he was inspired by Bielsa, Mauricio Pochettino.
But again, it's club versus country. That's the difference. It's the when you're coaching a national team, it's got to be managed differently than a club team. And sometimes you're like,
cultures are different, generations are different. Just the way that, and I try to say that in a positive way. Listen, I'm raising 2 kids. The way they consume and understand and necessarily content, but just in terms of how they communicate is just a little bit different than how I was communicated to. And the same for my parents before them. And right, so you just have to adapt. That's essentially what we want, and from our players, right? But listen, we talk about that Dutch game where we lost in the round of 16. Our players didn't adapt to what was happening on the field. We didn't solve problems quick enough, and we lost the game. Why can't we ask our coaches to do the same? You have to adapt to what's in front of you. You have to meet your players where they are. Some of them need more communication than others. Mr. Pochettino is super smart. He knows this, but now it feels like we got into this.
But he also has to have some rules. Don't you agree? Like, if his rule is you come in, if you come in for the whole summer or you don't come in, that's the coach's rule. Right. And then you got to make a decision, right? He's got to have some. But
I feel like he should protect the player in that sense.
I agree with you in that part. I 100%
protect the player. Because now you have a pissing contest that's out open in the public, and that doesn't do any of us any good.
Right.
Tony, I want to hear from you, Tony, in terms of how Bruce Arena operated with that O2 squad. Of how dialed was he in terms of emotions and connections, and how often was he taking texts and phone calls from players, or was this the job, come to the camp?
Constant communication. What constant? Seeing your games, of course. That team was about half in Europe, half in the U.S. I think it was split right down the middle, pretty much, in 2002. So the guys in the U.S. were a little bit easier to see than the guys in Europe. But I know they were traveling all over the place, and you got emails all the time. Watched your games, comments. Like I think Greg was like that. I mean, Greg mentioned it thousands of times. The communication. I just don't know as a national team coach I don't remember when our last game was, but it was the Gold Cup final, which was how many weeks ago? I mean, if you're not communicating with the players, like I know you're probably watching video, but what are you doing right now? Like what could you be doing? Like I would want to know like what my players are feeling. How's preseason going? New manager, you mentioned Jimmy or Charlie, new manager for Christian Pulisic. How's it going? Does he tell you you're playing in a different position? I see he's playing a different formation. Are you comfortable there? Is it something you like? How are you settling in? Damian Downs, you were just with me all summer. Hey, how's the new club? Hey, you got a weird assist this weekend, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just
constant communication.
Yeah. Like, I don't know what else you'd be doing.
This is that part too, Jimmy and Tony. Correct me if I'm wrong. That there's one thing you're playing for your country, but I'd also want to add. You're playing for your manager. You're playing for your coach, and that he understands me so well. What makes me tick? Which guys need to be pushed? Which guys you need the arm around the shoulder? The psychology behind coaching before a World Cup. Like I think our guest tomorrow that we're going to have, that people aren't going to necessarily, they're going to lose their mind when we talk. But we're going to dive into that. What was that relationship with him and his coach and the players around it? How, because they were golden generation players. How did they move forward, right? And I can't wait to hear what he has to say, because then we could compare where this group is, how Pochettino handles this group, and kind of the expectations that were set forward for that group in that cycle.
Yeah, so we have a special guest tomorrow. We're gonna leave that former
you're
player,
killing me now.
nameless.
You're killing me. I can't make the interview. You guys are killing me.
I'm gonna say, just call out sick.
I can't, man. I can't.
Call out sick.
All right, everyone. On that note, we're gonna take our last break of Call It What You Want. When we come back, the U.S. Open Cup semifinals are set. We're gonna give you our thoughts on who we think have the best chance to win that competition. Keep it right here.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
All right, welcome back in to a shorter stretch run of Call It What You Want. I am Jimmy Conrad alongside Chasing Checks Charlie and Tony Miola. And the semifinals for the U.S. Open Cup, the longest and oldest competition in U.S. soccer, been around for over 100 years, is now down to its final four. We have Nashville taking on the Philadelphia Union, who came from behind twice to beat the New York Red Bulls. New York Red Bulls, by the way, scored 2 good goals and then gave up goals 3 minutes after each one of those. So managing the game is an area of the game that they need to focus on. And then Minnesota versus Austin is the other semifinal. Minnesota hosting theirs, Nashville hosting Philadelphia. The winner of Minnesota-Austin will host the final. So there's a lot at stake in that semifinal in particular. Tones, coming to you. Of these final four, who are you liking to break through and win this trophy?
I'm leaning right now towards Minnesota United. The fact that they have a chance to have a home game for a final. Austin, good defensively at points in the season. They've been a roller coaster. Have done well in this competition. On the other side, Nashville being at home is a massive advantage against the Philly. That's going to be, I think, of the two games, that would be the better of the two games, just on paper. Yeah. You never know how they're going to play out, but Minnesota, because Eric Ramsey has said time and time again in our calls that the U.S. Open Cup is really important to them. Of course, it's important now because we're in the semifinals. A little bit surprised last night when you looked at the Red Bulls lineup and Forsberg is on the bench, Choupo-Moting is on the bench. I'm like, man, you got a chance to get to a final. And he decided to rest those guys, which is a choice, right? And
maybe he didn't want to lose in a final again.
Hey, I'm telling you, no, but honestly, Red Bulls cannot function properly in the attacking third without Forsberg. He is such a quality player. Every time I watch him, I'm like, damn, my man, he's underrated. What an underrated signing. Because at first I thought, RB Leipzig to New York Red Bulls. Oh, so, such a surprise, very predictable, moving from the same organization, just, to another club. He's actually a super quality player, great person. How can you not have him on the pitch? He's ready to go. That for me was the big mistake there. They lack a lot of quality in terms of creativity, one-on-one players. It's a lot of youth and experienced professionals. So I get the fact that you're trying to develop young players, but at the same time, you need to have the quality to take you over the top. And I love the fact that everybody in the chat is trying to figure out who this special guest is. And guys, Michael Bradley, Jermaine Jones, they're special, but we're talking another level. We're talking top tier. We're talking a World Cup finalist. That's all I'm going to say. World Cup finalist.
Whoa. That's a big clue there.
Yeah,
you just narrowed it down to a couple hundred people there.
Yeah, World Cup finalist here. Wow. This is a World Cup finalist, not an American.
Well, to give some stats on the U.S. Open Cup, what I think Philadelphia Union has to be, even though Nashville's hosting, I still give them the edge of being the favorite. They've only lost 2 games in all competitions since April 20th. It's really impressive. Those are back-to-back losses against the Columbus Crew, 1-0 away from home, and against Nashville, actually, in Nashville 1-0. There's some Brady Carnell's really unlocked that team, and they can hurt you in so many different ways. So I like them to be the slight favorites against Nashville. And then ultimately, I agree with you, Big Tones, that Minnesota's the favorite against Austin. Minnesota, though, haven't been as sharp over the last couple weeks. Win, a draw, a loss. They're kind of a little bit all over the place. But I would say that in this competition, knowing what's at stake and the fact that they can host the final, I don't think they missed this opportunity at all, even though I think Austin will be a tough test. And now that you're down to the Final Four, everybody's going to be really going for it. What's really cool about these 4 teams that are left, none of them have won a trophy before. Well, the Philadelphia Union got a Supporters Shield trophy, so I want to take that into consideration. Being the best team over 10 months deserves your respect and admiration. But there's no Open Cup trophy, there's no MLS Cup tropy for all 4 of these. So we're going to have a first-time winner of one of those 2 trophies, and I think that's pretty cool.
Did they lose Union 2 or 3 times, Jimmy, in a final?
Philadelphia Union has lost U.S. Open Cup final 3 times.
3 times.
That's right. Yeah, and I was at one of them when they lost in penalties to Sporting Kansas City back in the day. So, yeah, it's going to be exciting, though, and I'm looking forward to it. So the semifinals are slated. The September 16th is the first one, Nashville hosting Philadelphia. And Minnesota will host Austin the following night on September 17th. I will be in studio in Stamford, Connecticut with one Charlie Davies and hopefully Big Tones for the coverage.
I'm calling the games.
You're calling the games. That's right, with Chris Whittingham. And that will be a lot of fun.
I'll hear you, but I won't. Well, I'll see you too. Yeah.
I get to hear you as well, which will be nice. So we're all involved in these. And then the word on the street is that we'll actually be at the US Open Cup final. So if you're once that gets decided.
Oh, damn, we will be.
That's the word on the street. Oh. The word on the street.
Let's go with it, man.
Well, hey, as Ivis likes to say in the private chat.
Hey, right here, I'm happy I'm not the one this time running my mouth. That's all I have to say.
This is on Jimmy just breaking news for us right here.
Maybe
Jimmy's running his mouth, not me. I'm not running my mouth.
Okay, so one last thing. This has been a really fun show, and we could always go another hour because we like to talk, as you know. But we didn't give one player their flowers, and Charlie was really – Chase and Checked Charlie was really upset about it in the last show. Chuck, we're gonna give you the microphone here to see it out. Which player should we have talked about in our last one and we didn't?
Well, this is the thing, guys.
Here we go. I love that.
We have Tony Miola here, right? Matt Turner.
We got your boy behind you too.
Yeah. Dakota's in the back here watching. But Matt Turner, he comes back to Major League Soccer.
Yes.
His first game, okay, it's against DC United, and they're dreadful. But he kept a clean sheet. They won 2-0. The Revs have been dreadful at home. So I think it's worth a mention if he and he made some good plays in this game. Command of his box, good distribution, had a couple of strong saves. But Tony, seeing where he is now, are you more confident that he will get back to being the Matt Turner, the shot stopping, top goalkeeper that we have in the U.S. men's national team pool?
Yeah, I told you a couple months ago, if he starts playing, he's in the conversation to start in the World Cup, right? He's got the experience going into this, whatever you call it, his downslide in his career where he didn't get a lot of. He was by far the best goalkeeper, but you lose that after a while. So this was really important for him. I know he wanted to play in Europe. I know he tried to play in Europe. He's in some really weird contractual sort of situations, but we clearly need to see more of it. We need to see a bigger stretch, but this is a great start for him. And it had to be just, I don't know if you had a chance to talk to him or not, but it had to be like a take a deep breath moment finally, like an exhale moment at the end, like, whew, got back on the field. I'm settled here at least for a little while. I know I'm going to play. I got to shut out. And like, now I can go and just get better. I imagine there had to be a little bit of that.
And not only from him, from his entire family, his whole camp. Finally, he's back into a situation where he's being counted on to play.
Don't bring the family angle up again. It's going to trigger big tones. Like if he's settled and happy, we can't bring it back. But I understand what you're saying, Chuck. We went long on that part of the conversation. That's unbelievable. All right. Well, as we say here on the show, all of us have said it at some point. Confidence is a hell of a drug. And long may that continue, not only for Matt Turner, but for all of our players in our player pool. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. And as Charlie mentioned, we do have a special guest joining us tomorrow. It should be a lot of fun. Apparently, he's a World Cup finalist, which makes it even cooler.
Yes.
Yeah, call it what you want. That's the show. We're average to good. Thank you for all your support. We'll see you soon. Later.